it's me, your Void. And October was actually kinda weird. I had great plans for October, participating in the Scarathon hosted by Jess from This Kiwi. And I guess participating in Gothtober? Question mark? So my October TBR was actually really freaking ambitious, which is why I separated into musts and maybes. Let's just say none of those was accurate. Doesn't mean that I didn't hit any of the bingo squares. It also doesn't mean that I didn't read anything from my TBR. I did read books that were originally on my TBR. Yay me. So first up, I read and finished Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. Yes. Yes. This deserves all the hype it gets. From absolutely everyone. This was a 5-star read for me. I have no idea how accurate it is as a retelling of the Goose Girl. Apparently that is an old German fairy tale. I have never heard of it. Anyways. Yes. Fucking gold. In this one we follow Vanya, and Vanya she's playing 3D chess in an interdimensional space where time is relative. It's brilliant. So we follow her as she is stealing her way through the rich and famous jewelry boxes while at the same time pretending to be rich and famous. Because she originally, like, her first theft was like stealing the identity of a princess. Brilliant. So she uses her persona as the princess as her disguise to get access to all of these places where she then starts stealing stuff. And she's basically running a 3-way con. The long con being her posing as the princess. Then she has her little thieving stints as something called the Pfenniggeist. And then there is her third persona, which is closest to who she actually is. Because she is pretending to be her own maid to be able to move around. It sounds complicated, and it kinda is complicated, but the way it is written, it's explained in a way that you understand what is going on. You are introduced to every persona bit by bit. And then of course we have a more expanding cast that comes into it because her, well, technically not her husband to be, shows back up and is like, we are going to be married in 2 weeks. And she's like, oh shit, gotta wrap up the long con. And the goddess is also, you are greedy as fuck, so die on your greed. You are going to die on the full moon, which happens to be in 2 weeks. And she's like, oh shit, gotta wrap up the long con. And there are shenanigan in the background. And then we have Conrad. Conrad is a prefect, and he's basically like an independent police officer. And he comes to investigate the thieving going on in the name of the Pfenniggeist. And then it turns out there are so many layers to absolutely everything. It is... I am explaining it very bad right now. Let me try to boil it down. So we have a very talented thief. We have a very talented policeman. And they are dancing around each other in a world where magic is in absolutely everything. But also it's like small magic, it's small gods, it's big gods. Everyone has an opinion. Politics are thrown around. It is just fun. It is just fun. And like Vanya knows exactly what she wants and how she's going to get it. And she has her mantras. And this is a person who knows who she is. But over the course of the book, all of what she is completely taken into question, and she has to figure out who she is again. And it's heartbreaking. There were some chapters where I was like actively like, wow. Especially towards the end, like the last 100 pages. That was a fucking roller coaster. But yeah, this is easily one of my new favorites. Yes. I gave this 5 stars for a reason. I also read this for Kirsty's Patreon book club. That was the pick for the last 3 months, and everyone in that book club agreed that this book is so great that the next 3 months are going to be for the second book, Painted Devils. Yes. For the Scarathon, this book hits the prompt of solid, because without the glossary and author's note at the back, this is exactly 500 pages, which the solid prompt wanted me to fulfill, 500 or more pages. Yay. Then we come to a book that I really wanted to fit in on the board. It wasn't originally on the board. It wasn't on my TBR, but it was a spillover from last month. So I was sitting here, I need to finish this. There was no need for me to finish this. And that is Assistant to the Villain by Nicole Maehrer. These are the longest 340 pages of my life. I had such high hopes for this. The premise is that someone accidentally stumbles into the job of being the assistant to the villain. The villain, not a villain, the villain. And I was promised a comedy romance between the two. Comedy? It was not. Romance? I guess it happened sometime at the end. I would describe this as idiots to lovers. And it's just chronically not funny. It's chronically not funny. This is a, and I quote, TikTok sensation. And that is exactly how it reads. There are paragraphs in here that are funny, that are witty, that are quick on the execution of the joke, that makes sense. But it's single paragraphs here and there, followed by 20, 30, 40 pages of filler to pad the story out. This is a collection of TikToks put into writing and drowned in fluffy writing. It is very disjointed. The pacing is all over the place. And the characters are just no. The attempt at having a serious story in here, like one of the characters has a very serious backstory, that was clunky as hell. That was so clunky, it did not work. The justification for the villain's backstory? Dude, you're doing all of these supposedly very evil things. Mind you, we never see him do the evil things. We only ever get told that he's doing these things, but we never witness him doing something actually heinous. And his backstory is so fucking boring. And like, I can promise you, not a single villain in any universe would do what he allegedly does based on his reasoning. I don't want to spoiler it, but it is such a non-reason to do all of these things that he is, again, allegedly doing. We never see him do it. The things we see him do: set a dragon free after he realizes the dragon is in pain. He is capturing a big, powerful magical creature, yes, but he's capturing it to get the mate of this magical creature into his possession. And when he has that, he is not weaponizing them against the good guys. No, he realizes, oh, they are lonely, even though they are in, like, prison cells next to each other, so he rips down the wall between them so they can be together. Sure, he's killing a guy, but that guy almost R-worded his assistant. I would call that retribution, not villainy. It's just, it's not, It doesn't help that we have a family for this villain that is constantly, well, they're not saying it out loud, but they are telling us how much of a good guy he was in the past. Until the big dramatic thing happened. That is not a big dramatic thing. I have to cut this short here because I will ramble on for hours and hours on this. This is a letdown. This is a disappointment. And this book has the audacity to end on a fucking cliffhanger. No. I gave this 2 stars. And I will not continue this series. This book makes me so angry. Since this one wasn't actually on my TBR for October, I never thought about putting it on the bingo board. So I then scrambled to put it on. I wanted to put it for the animosity prompt, but Jess declared, no, you have to have read from the author before and dislike their work, and then read from them again to get that. And since I didn't read from this person before, and I was not willing to read book 2, or spend any money on book 2 for that matter, I couldn't fit it there. But, interpretation is a thing, and I put this one down for the sweat prompt, because this made me so angry that I actually started to sweat. The anger runs hot in my veins. The next book that I have here in my hand is also a spillover from a previous month, but this one actually kind of was on my TBR because I needed to finish this one to get to another book that I didn't read in October. And that is Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver, the acclaimed accidental cannibalism serial killer dark comedy romance. Now this is a comedy romance. I snort laughed in this one. For this one I had about 50% left to go. Second half just as funny as the first one. This too, actually, I would classify as idiots to lovers because both of these characters turn into absolute idiots when they are around each other. They are so stupid for each other. I love it. I love it. Now in the first half we had a lot of killing and little romance because it was growing. And I actually appreciate that. Like, you would think they are bonking on page 2, but they are not actually. It takes them a good while to get there. And in the second half they got there. In the second half we have less killing, more bonking. We actually replaced some of the killing with some of the bonking. No one died doing bonking, mind you. But I appreciated it! I appreciated it! The ending of the story was adequately brutal. And then the final 1 or 2 chapters, oh my god, I was actually swooning over this. Yes, I love this one. This one also got a 5-star. Yes. Since I only read 50% of Butcher and Blackbird, I went to Jess and asked if I can fit it. And I was saved by 2%. I read 48% of this book before the readathon, 52% of the book during the readathon, meaning I was able to count it. I forgot what I counted it for. I think it was the acid prompt with like a neon cover. I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure I counted it for the acid prompt. I think this book ruined marriage proposals for me. Towards the end of the month, I finally felt like reading again, so I picked up some shorter reads, one of which is, and I have to look that up because that title is a mouthful, Percy and Jo in the Horrendous Haunted Heist of Horror by W.H. Lockwood. That was an ebook novella thing, not too long, just cute 84 pages, and it was funny. It was funny, it was quick, it was stupid. In that one we follow a priest or ex-priest and a art historian slash thief, and they somehow specialized in fighting demons and ghosts. So for Halloween they stole the invitation to a mask ball, to a masquerade costume party thing from a rich person, and this rich person has a painting. That painting actually exists. I forgot its name, but it actually exists, and it is listed as a haunted building, as a haunted painting. So that's funny. I actually googled that. And this guy has this painting, and he is a serial killer, and he uses this painting to kill people. So Jo and Percy go there, and they want to steal the painting to prevent the guy from killing people with the painting, but also to exorcise and destroy the painting. Somehow. It's a whole thing. So they go in, and things go horribly wrong because these two boys are gay as fuck for each other. And I mean, who can blame them? They went as a sexy Dracula and sexy Van Helsing, and yeah, things go from there. By the end, they get the painting and they get rid of it, but it's just a mess of very chaotic situations. Like they have a problem, and in order to fix the problem, they make the problem worse, and we go from there, and by the end everyone is in the killing room with the painting. It's brilliant, it's funny, it's quick. Yeah, I gave this one 3.5 stars because A, it is a novella pretty far into an established universe, and I have not read anything in this established universe, so I was lacking some of the context, but that is totally on me, not on the writer. They actually made a pretty good job at explaining things to people who have no idea who these people are, so that was funny. Second, I gave this only 3.5 stars because the chaotic nature at some points was actually too chaotic. There was one point where I lost track of what the fuck was going on, and there was another point where I was like, this is not what you should be doing at this moment. This is not the adequate response to the situation you find yourselves in. But go forth. So that dampened my enjoyment a bit, but it's still quick and funny, and I actually think I want to pick up the rest of this universe series, whatever, and read up until the point where the novella is set, and then reread the novella, and maybe my rating for this thing will change once I do. But yeah, that was a quick and hilarious read, and I will do it again. Almost forgot. Percy, Joe, Horrendous Heist of Horror. Originally, I think I planned to put that in the Heist prompt. I did not put it into the Heist prompt. I put this one in the Ghost prompt. Another ebook that I read was also a novella, ? Is A Heart for the Taking by Mell R. Bright. This story is the definition of mid. It tries to be a murder mystery. It tries to be a paranormal romance. It tries to be a monster erotica. It fails spectacularly at all three of these things. It fails at the mystery element to it because we just ignore the murder investigation. For most of the book, the murder investigation literally is only used to bring our main characters together multiple times. It initially brings them together because we follow a werewolf and we follow a witch, and I already forgot both of those names. Like, I have no idea what their names were. I don't care at this point. So we have a werewolf and a witch, but the werewolves and the witches are pulling a original storyline, so they hate each other because history, I guess. But there's a murderer running around, and there might be a paranormal aspect to it, so they kind of have to work together because the werewolf is the chief of police or something, I don't know, he's investigating the murders, and the witches are like, oh, let us help, and he's like, no, and the witches are like, oh, but we want him to help, and the werewolf is like, okay, cool, fine. So they go to one crime scene together, and they hate each other, and then they separate, and the wolf does his police work by sitting at home and letting other people do the police work, and the witch is helping in the police work by sitting at home and letting other people do the police work? I don't know. So then a lot of nothing happens, and then the thing that is killing people is attacking, and they both show up where it attacks, and that is how they are smooshed together again, and that happens like 3 or 4 times, and it just, no. It turns out the creature that is killing everything is apparently one of the most strongest adversaries in a long time, yet it doesn't do anything. It literally just chills out for 4 weeks because we need to let time pass for these characters to fall in love. It is so bad. So the romance is stupid. The plot of the murder mystery is stupid. And the smut is also stupid. The smut is badly written. From what I gleaned from it, this has to be the most unspectacular deed ever. Like, it's just, they make such a big deal about it that the werewolves do the knotting thing, right? They do knotting. And the witch is like, please don't do that to me, I'm not ready for that. And I'm like, okay, cool, communication. And then by the end of it, let's do it. And then they do it, and it's like the most... I read Cleo Evans, so I know what spectacular knotting looks like. This is not it. This is not it. And then the book just ends. The book literally ends on that single note. It was such a disappointment. It is a book. It happened. 2.5 stars. Moving on. Oh yeah, footnote, a heart for the taking. I used that for the minimalist prompt because it's literally just black with the title on it and a heart. Minimalist cover. Cool. Let's go. Remember how I said that I will also participate in Gothtober? Remember how I said in my TBR video that I have one thing that can hit 6 different prompts all at once? Yeah. That was House of Slaughter, Volume 1. The Butcher's Mark, which I read, I think, for the break. I think it was a Center Square I used that on for the Scarathon. For the break week, because it's a comic, it's a quick read. This is the second comic I read in the Slaughterverse, and we follow my boy Aaron. Remember, I had a single frame of his hands, and I fell in love with him, and now we get his whole backstory, and I'm so... I was right. He is the bestest boy. For very different reasons than I thought he would be, but he is the bestest boy. I would die for him. Given the Slaughterverse and its rules about monsters, that might actually be the case one day. Who knows? In the House of Slaughter, we follow different characters and bits and pieces of the backstory of the titular House of Slaughter, where Erica Slaughter works, is from, in the Something is Killing the Children series. And yes, this is Aaron's backstory and a bit of Jace's backstory, aka Butcher. And we get told how they met and get a bit more intel on how the house actually works. Like, how they raise the children in there and earning your teeth, and a bit more background on what the mask colors mean. And we get the backstory of a fallen house, the fallen house of Butcher, and how Jace is being transferred into the House of Slaughter, and lots of backstories. And we get to see how these two fall in love, and it's teenage angst and drama and monsters and bloodshed, and oh my god. Yes. I really hope that this TV show goes through. I need all of this. I need all of this as a TV show. It's so cinematic. It's so cinematic. This one was another 5-star read for me, and I hit 6 different prompts of Gothtober for it. I didn't do anything else for Gothtober. I'm sorry. But this hit 6 different prompts of Gothtober, and as I said, I think I used this for the break prompts in the Scarathon. There's one more read, technically, that I finagled in there, and that was A Song to Drown Rivers by Ann Liang. I had that one as an audiobook arc from NetGalley, and this one suffers a bit from false advertisement. I have to say, I also mentioned that in my review for NetGalley, because this is being pitched as fantasy romance. I can tell you it is not a fantasy romance. There is 0 fantasy in it. 0. The whole time, I was waiting for the moment where magic comes into play, or at least some mysticism or something, but it never happened. Right until the end. There is a speculative element at the end, but I would not call that a substantial amount of anything to qualify it as fantasy. So if you see this advertised as fantasy, it is not fantasy. There's no magic, no dragons, no mythical creatures, nothing. Nothing. There's just a slight speculative thing at the end. I would tell you what it is, but it would spoil the ending of the story, so I cannot tell you. Just be aware there is a slight speculative element at the end that does not qualify the book as fantasy. Period. But A Song to Drown Rivers is a retelling / reimagining things of the story of one of the 4 beauties of China. I think there were 4. And we follow a woman who is praised for her beauty. Like, she's literally the most beautiful being in all of China. And she gets picked up by the right-hand man of a former king because this nation is being occupied. And she gets picked up and asked to become a spy for their kingdom. And to do that, she has to be the concubine of the king who is occupying their land. And the book basically comes in two parts. Basically, it's not mentioned as 2 parts, but it very much feels like 2 parts. The first part being her learning all these things. Like, she's just a village girl. She just happens to be really fucking pretty. So she has to learn how to move, how to speak, how to seduce, and do all of that in a court setting, while at the same time not outing herself as spying and manipulating the king to do what is good for her own people. And the second half of the book basically follows her do all of these things at the court of the enemy king. And we see her use her skills to do what she is asked to. Problem is, in the first part of the book, she kinda low-key falls in love with her teacher, and her teacher kinda low-key falls in love with her. But they both know, we cannot be together. We are duty-bound, we cannot be together, we have to do this other thing. And they do it. Like, props. They snuff out their love for each other for the moment. They put it deep down in their little hearts, and they move on with their plan. And she successfully seduces the enemy king. She successfully keeps herself alive through all of the court politics and stuff. And she successfully manipulates that occupying force in a way that makes an opening for her own people to come in and right the wrongs. And it's a heartbreaking tale, I have to say. It went places, because she's not just manipulating this enemy king, she's actively making him fall in love with her, and she is so good at that she actually starts to like him. She is so good at making this enemy king fall in love with her that she, in a certain way, falls in love with him, which makes the ending so much more impactful. I actually argue there are 2 endings to this book, and they happen right after one another, and oh my god, both of them are heartbreaking. I love me a book that isn't afraid to go the distance and make the whole thing a tragedy. You get way too many happy endings or cliffhangers these days, but this book went there. This book not only went to the point where it's like, oh, you got a victory, but at what cost? It goes even further. It just was a gut punch. I loved this book. I gave it 4 stars. Yes, I only gave it 4 stars. There were 2 or 3 things that I didn't like, nitpicky things. And again, it is advertised as fantasy. It is not fantasy. I wrote a beautifully worded note to the publisher to take the fantasy out of the marketing, because it's not fantasy. There you have it. That's my wrap up. Besides Assistant to the Villain, and besides A Song to Drown Rivers, all of these books were actually on my TBR, kinda. So that's nice, I guess. And I had high highs and low lows in this reading month, which baffled me. Like, again, October was a thing. I had like a semi-reading slump for most of the month, then I wanted to read everything under the sun. I had very bad picks, I had really good picks. It was all over the place. It was truly all over the place. And as I predicted, it was a slower month for me to get through, because I read so much the last couple of months. It's ridiculous. Oof. Side note, I actually read a bit more. I also made it to part 3 of Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. And I made it almost all the way through Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. But since I didn't finish these 2 books, I don't count them for October. I just made it very far into both of these books. So if you think about it, this is the stack that I read. Very chaotic reading month. I think I got 2 scares overall for Scarathon. I totally forgot what I checked off and whatnot. I think I got 2 full scares and a couple of other prompts here and there. Mostly the non-reading prompts. If you made it this far into this video, leave a pumpkin emoji in the comments down below if you don't have anything to say. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye!